let's talk about Sean McDermott. I think nationally speaking, Sean McDermott has become a little bit of a laughing spot for folks. I think it's like, oh, wow, you have Josh Allen and you haven't managed to win a Super Bowl. Well, there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there that haven't managed to win a Super Bowl. It's the Patrick Mahomes era, folks. Right now, it's tough to get one if you're not him. Sucks. But I think there is a very realistic conversation around Sean McDermott because there have been issues in these playoff games that have cost the Bills chances to win a Super Bowl. We all know what happened in 13 seconds. We don't need to revisit that. But even dating back to last year's playoff game, where he elected to dress an unhealthy punter in Sam Martin, and early on it cost the Bills field position. Who knows the impact it had on Tyler Bass's miss? I don't want to blame it on that. But, you go into a game willingly with a hurt punter. And then, the fake punt call that they called instead of just going for it with Josh Allen, throwing the ball at the end zone instead of ticking the time down and trying to make that the last possession of the game. So either you're kicking a field goal to go into overtime or you're winning a touchdown to walk it off. There's been some yips from Sean McDermott in the big moments. The collapse in Houston was a collapse, and that was a young version of the Bills. We didn't have high expectations for them, but that was a collapse. And, they've been dog walked now at home by the Bengals in the second round. I mean, after the Chiefs game, Luka, the conversation was get playoff games in Buffalo and we'll be just fine. When I say after the Chiefs game, the 13 seconds game, get playoff games in Buffalo, we'll be just fine. The only reason the Chiefs won this game is they were home and it was a miraculous finish and Arrowhead carried them. Last 2 years, the Bills have had division round playoff games in their building. And for a variety of reasons, you can make up excuses if you want to. Injuries this year, DeMar Hamlin the year before, they lost. And they lost convincingly to the Bengals. Was not even a fair fight. And the Chiefs game, it was just, they got outplayed. They deserved to lose the game, but they also did some things where they had a chance to steal the game, and they did not put themselves in position to do that. That is a long way of asking you, is Sean McDermott on the hot seat heading into 2024?
No, he's on the lukewarm seat. I think you still have to be a playoff contending team. Like, you still have to be that. You have Josh Allen. Yes, there's turnover, which we'll get into the later part of my answer, but you still have to be competitive. You still have to be a playoff team and so on and so forth. And get into the dance. Maybe is this a year where they can't make it 5 in a row? Potentially, when it comes to division championships, of course. Potentially. There is some turnover to this roster where maybe coming out of the gates, as you even mentioned earlier this episode, where you have non-conference opponent Arizona at home, and then 4 days later you got to play probably your most important divisional game. And then if you stumble out of the gates, even with that, going into the later stretch after that, that is difficult. You have the Ravens in there. The order of it, I can't remember off the top of my head. Texans are in there somewhere where you have Allen versus Diggs. Yeah. There's tough games where stumbling out of the gate, maybe you just can't secure the division, but you need to be competitive and you need to be making the playoffs. Now, if it goes cataclysmically wrong and everything goes awry, yeah, I think that's where the lukewarm becomes hot and eventually would lead to his firing. But why I don't believe he's a hot seat right out the gate is it is a transitional like season. And I think he has enough backing to him showing the success to the level, at least that he has, that if you were to, let's say, be the 6 seed, the 5 seed of the AFC, you get into the playoffs and say you even win that game to then get back to the divisional round that you've been the past 2 previous seasons. Oh, I mean, you did that with what others are saying is less, right? You've done it with less. So what that would, if I were running this thing, I'd be like, that lessens you being the cause of why we're not getting there, right? Something else is happening. You're just not getting something that's elevating you above it, but it's not you potentially that's limiting it anymore. Something else is there. We got to figure that out because you need to get over that hump eventually when you have Josh Allen. But ultimately, I think that's what at least reserves him off the hot seat, puts it on the lukewarm seat. I think there is cause for concern, and maybe where you are just like, hey, just continue success. It doesn't need to necessarily be at the Super Bowl contender level, but that Super Bowl is still on the mind, and it should be. Just let's see what we got, and you need to be competitive and still make the playoffs this season.
I think you answered that really well. I will say this. I think, is he on the hot seat? In my opinion, no. But that doesn't mean he's like 100% safe, like you said. There's always things you can do to get fired. The hot seat conversation, I think, is under the guidelines of if a season goes within a realistic range of outcomes. If Sean McDermott goes out there with a fully healthy Josh Allen and wins 4 football games, he could get fired. That's not being on the hot seat in July of 2024. That's the season played out. Holy hell, the season went off the rails and we got to get you out of here. So I could see that. If Sean McDermott has something off the field pop up that, we've seen like Urban Meyer situation pop up or whatever, which there's no reason to believe is going to happen, that could happen too. But as far as like, if Sean McDermott has a season that's within like a realistic range of predictable outcomes, even if they're like on the barely outside looking into the playoffs, I don't believe he'll get fired. And I think one reason for that is how willingly and open he and Bean were to this reset, where they ate a lot of money this year to open up the books for future years. They got rid of some guys this year that they didn't have to get rid of. They didn't have to cut Mitch Morse. They didn't have to trade Stephon Diggs. They willingly did this for a tougher today, for a better tomorrow. But if the guys in that building aren't aligned that they're going to be there for tomorrow, they don't care about a better tomorrow. And the fact that they were so willing to do that tells me that I think Sean McDermott is safe. I think Brandon Beane is safe. They are slow rolling this thing as far as rebuilding it back up. I think it was a smart, necessary offseason. The third thing, this is the wild card. Everything I just said could go out the window if Sean McDermott has a great season, makes the playoffs, gets to the second round, runs into the Chiefs. If he has one of those moments where the Bills are, everything we saying in July goes out the window, if it's the fourth quarter of that game and there's a minute left and the Bills need him to make the right decision to win that game and he goes to door number 2 and his decision is the reason why they lose, I could see Terry Pagula giving them the outs. But for now, I think Sean McDermott is safe and I think he probably should be safe. Thanks for watching this clip from Bills Chat. For the full episode, you can find the link in the description. While you're here, we would love it if you took the time to like and subscribe. That way you'll never miss when we upload new content to Bills Chat on YouTube.